G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a video on some frequently asked questions, what we get at the channel in comments and all sorts of areas. I suppose the first off one would be, why do we do the extreme long range shooting? Why do we do what we do? And I suppose it goes into, I've answered it in a video before where both me and Sam sort of spoke about a bit of our feelings and what we're up to in the way of why we do this sort of thing. It's a technical challenge that is a common interest throughout the bush. There's all sorts of those sort of things that are involved with what we're doing in the ELR shooting. But I suppose I'd also go into a little bit what ELR shooting is. It is largely beyond anything that is practical. It is shooting too far with a rifle. But it involves a lot of skills, a lot of technique, equipment, all those bits and pieces, that a lot of effort, and like I said, very combined skills and very specialized skills, both in what Sam does as a spotter and I do in the shooting side of things, more than meets the eye. There's a lot of experience involved in it. There's a lot of skill involved with it. It's very hard to do. So that, for pretty much anyone that goes into ELR and pushing too far, it's not an effective thing. It's not a practical thing to really use, although it may have been used on the odd occasion in a real sense, in a military sense or that type of thing. The extreme long range shooting, it's really more about pushing those skills. It's like everything else. It's like when you take, whether it's art or it's dance or it's race cars or whatever it is, when you take it to the extreme, it's gone past its practical purposes, but it's about excelling in your skills. It's about trying harder, it's trying to do more. It also definitely helps if you are, once you learn to be able to read wind and be able to judge shots and do bits and pieces, or be able to spot and work out and be able to transfer with the information transfer and that sort of stuff. When we do it at the extreme distance, we become far more effective, and it actually helps with the inside the effective range of that round. So whether that's at 200 yards or it's at 800 yards or is it 1200 yards, that stuff becomes a lot easier because of this, because of the extreme long range side of it. But in truth, the extra reason we do it beyond the normal is it is about a channel. It is about providing entertainment. It is more entertaining. Just shooting paper groups or just shooting on steel inside effective ranges, as much as that can be fun to do as well, it ends up being a little bit like watching grass grow for an audience. So in a way of creating interesting content, to take a round that's too far, or take a round that shouldn't be able to go that far and show that it can go that far, and it can be within reasonable consistency and accuracy and still carry a certain amount of energy and all that sort of stuff out there, is fascinating for people. It's as simple as that. And then we get the extra drive of people want to see their cartridge go to that place. Not only does it take the skill and the equipment and the bits and pieces, but you also need the area to do it. So we're very fortunate in where we live, where we can do this. So that whole lot marries together. It ends up where we do a lot of it out in the paddock there, doing a lot of stuff. We enjoy doing that sort of stuff, but we actually have the drive of creating content and trying to put on different cartridges and things like that, all at a fair bit of expense to us. It is a little bit of our hobby, but it's also turned into a job of forms. But that's the logic of why we're doing what we're doing. I touched on there. Another question is it effective? Is it still lethal? Can it still kill? All that side of things out there. In talking, and I think a lot of these conversations come from, there's a bit of interest from people around the world in general sense, but there's a fair bit of interest in the gaming community, where there is long shots on some of the action games, which then the question is that, can it kill out there attached to that side of things in the gaming community? The simple truth, I've done videos on all these subjects in finer detail, but the simple truth is, and the way I look at it, is if a bullet or a projectile is still traveling through the air, you should consider it deadly. That's the simple truth. Is it effective? No. At extreme long range, it's gone well past being effective. And there's things about percussive force and expansion and all that sort of stuff about hunting. The truth of it is, consider it deadly, absolutely, and treat it like it can kill you without question, but it's not going to punch through armor or be effective in any form. And I suppose in every sense I would say, although there is records of there is military sniper shots where there is effective kills at extreme long range. This would never have been done without extremely special circumstances. To actually hope for a one-shot hit at extreme long range is not possible. Although it is, I shouldn't say it that way. It's not possible to guarantee it's going to happen. You don't know what the air's doing. There's no way to tell you exactly what the air's doing, and it's certainly no way to look into the future of what the air's going to doing when the projectile gets there. So, is it possible to do it? Yes, it is possible, but it is impossible to make certain or guarantee it's going to be done in one shot. That's the simple truth of it. That also moves into people who talk about moving shots, where once again the gaming community got to be able to judge it in the moving side of things. In a real sense, yes, there is all the maths, and you can do that by calculating and dialing in or holding off and all that sort of stuff in the theory of things. But once again, once you are going into the future, even though it might be only 3 seconds or 4 seconds or 5 seconds or up to 15 seconds or even 20 seconds in the extreme ultra long range shots, you're going to the future. So what that wind's going to be doing, what that movement's going to be doing, something that's moving, if it slows down a little bit, speeds up, turns a little left, turns a little right, yeah, I get that the gaming side of things is set up to make this sort of work, but because of the time of actual reality of a projectile traveling through the air and the fact that it's slowing down, is that no, you cannot guarantee it. So has it been tried? Almost certainly. And has it worked? It probably has on occasions, but in any real sense, because you're looking into the future, no, it's not an effective thing to think of that way, and certainly something that could only work with a certain amount of chance. In your games, okay, it's set up where time different and made so it is conceivable. That's because it is designed that way to make it where you can do it, and ignoring a few of the little physics features of what the reality of reality has. So, and I suppose that would come into the final one on that with the likes of practical application of the sniper round. Certainly for hunting, I have a fairly strong recommendation that if it's past a second of bullet travel, any further than that, it's too far. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to move. You don't know where things are going to go. It isn't about ego when you're hunting. You're doing your job effectively, properly. Then under a second of bullet flight is what's required to do that in an ethical fashion, in at least my way of looking at things. As for looking at things in a military sense, the practical application of being able to guarantee a hit at extreme long range is not possible. But that doesn't mean that suppression fire, in the way of putting stuff out there to hold people down or to make people nervous, to make people think about it, if you've got a bullet lobbing in that's just next to you, you don't know what's going on that sort of level. So that can really rattle things. So it'll still be very effective for that. But of course, in the real sense, and a sniper's job or a sniper team's job is as much about intel, as much about having the equipment to be able to defend themselves or do a job where it really matters in places. And there's certainly now stories and rare circumstances where the extreme long range kills have happened. But the large job, most job of that is forward intel, letting people know what's going on, keeping an eye on things, all that sort of stuff, and then all other bits and pieces. And then back inside effective ranges is where snipers do their real hard work. And listen, I won't get into outside, I'm not a military sniper, I won't get in beyond that point. I certainly have done my reading, but coming back to where the extreme long range shots are relevant is, like I said, in the likes of suppression fire and likes of holding things down, pushing things back, that sort of stuff. You can very much imagine how much that is effective and would work. And then that doesn't even get into semi-automatic 50 BMGs and things like that that can pound off a lot of rounds. And then even a skipping along the ground round can do a lot of damage in that sort of form as well. So that's that one. The next one that I wanted to get into was Coriolis. And this moves into is the people who think the Earth's flat, the people who think that the Earth's not spinning, or the people who want to go into Coriolis is about the fact that the Earth is spinning flat out and the atmosphere is staying stable, so how could you possibly shoot the bullets through the air, blah, 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 and the confusion of that. I have done full videos to explain all these details, but the simple thing that it really comes down to, Coriolis is not about something spinning at a different speed to something else. Coriolis is, in its simple fashion, simplest way to put it, is a little bit like how a differential works. If you simply understand that a smaller diameter, if it's spinning, its surface speed compared to that same RPM of a larger diameter, the larger diameter is going faster. So it's as simple as that. With a small diameter to large diameter, this has to travel at a lot different speed than this. When you have a very big diameter, like our Earth, and then you move a little bit further out, there is also a difference in speed. So when you go out another 100 yards or 200 yards or meters or whatever you want to talk, then there is a little difference in speed. But it's only a small difference because we're such a big circle anyway. So that difference in speed is what creates the whole Coriolis effect. And I can go through all the different complications of it, but that is what we're actually talking about. And what I'm actually saying is, because that difference in speed is so actually small, and rifle shots are so actually small also, so what I'm actually saying is, if you're shooting over 5 miles or over 10 miles and shooting to where the elevation of the shot goes into hundreds or thousands of meters, then yards or meters, about the same, then yes, Coriolis is going to affect you. But if you're not shooting that far, so you only have, let's say, an extreme long shot for a rifle, and that is still in the world of only 5 seconds or 6 seconds or 8 seconds, and you're only going 100 or so meters into the air, and you're only traveling 3 to 4 kilometers or 2 miles, you have very little difference in the way of what Coriolis is going to cause you. So, and I suppose I'd qualify with that is that half a mile an hour of wind speed change or a few points in pressure drop over that shot will make more difference than the Coriolis will make. So your wind actually is the deal that is always varying. It will vary from shot to shot more than the Coriolis affects the shot to start off with. The other thing about the Coriolis is it is always the same. It's not varying, it's not changing as it happens, it's always exactly the same. So to the largest degree, you can completely ignore it. If you completely ignore it, it's not going to affect anything in what you do in the way of shooting in any form. That also means you then, by ignoring it, then you don't have to have the conversation with whether the Earth is spinning or whether the Earth is flat or all the rest of it also. But the simple maths of it is that it's such a small difference in comparison to the variables of the shot, the wind is the large thing we're talking about, that you can ignore it. And once you've seen your impact, well, it's factored in anyway, because you're working, then you're changing your impact to get to target, which is how extreme long range shooting works. Yes, in the extremely good stuff, then you might get there with 2 shots. That's extremely good, extremely consistent. There's a lot going on with that sort of thing. But a 1-shot hit, no, it's actually either extremely lucky or it's fantasy. That's the truth of it. Those are those ones there in the extreme long range shooting questions that we get. I hope that makes some sense. Thank you very much for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.